You at Showtime Sports have said if Jake Paul's going to fight, it needs to be credible opponent. And where I'm standing from, it seems like the opponent's maybe even more credible than Tommy Fury. He has more experience, 100 amateur fight. This is a real heavyweight. Your thoughts on the upgrade of opponent here?
Oh, it's definitely a much tougher fight. And candidly, I'll tell you what I said to them, behind the scenes. I wouldn't recommend it. I didn't recommend it. I think that this is even a much more dangerous fight for Jake than he needed to take. Someone with that amount of amateur experience. He's been in a lot of good gyms with a lot of good trainers. He's got, his dad behind him, giving him advice as well. And he's big. Size alone doesn't win fights. We know that. But if you have a skilled fighter, with a bigger fighter, that does make a difference. And I think that's the challenge for Jake. He's finding somebody who is at least as skilled, way more experienced, and way bigger.
We in your opening remarks, I know you brought up the first fight ever here at Madison Square Garden. This is a very different world we're living in 2022. We have an ex-YouTuber here against Rahman Jr. I mean, the world has changed. What do you think those guys back in the 1800s would think if they saw this type of matchup here?
Yeah, I don't think anybody would have predicted we'd be here, 18 months ago, or that Jake would be on the verge of sort of establishing himself as a credible boxer. And if he's able to win this fight, the sky's the limit. You heard him say that really his focus from now on will be on boxers. He's not saying that he wouldn't fight a Nate Diaz or Conor McGregor or something like that, but he's focusing on becoming a credible boxer. So probably not any more of the non-combat sports athletes in the future. So wouldn't it be crazy if we're sitting here in a year or two and Jake Paul is ranked in the top 15 by one of the sanctioning bodies? Like, look, if he gets past August 6th, then who knows? There are crazier things that happen.
I think he'll prove a lot of people wrong if he is able to get past on August 6th. I wanted to, of course, ask you, this is a co-headline with Amanda Serrano, the great Amanda Serrano. We know she's from Brooklyn by way of Puerto Rico. This fight at Madison Square Garden, what do you expect to see for the fans? She can draw fans, as we know, in New York. Your thoughts of what will happen on August 6th?
Yeah, she took a quantum leap in her popularity with that last event. I mean, it was just a massive event. Great for boxing, not just for women's boxing, for boxing overall. And it's great to see someone like her who has sort of toiled a little bit in the background for so long and being so skilled and really being one of the best pound for pound, either men or women, for the last several years. Like, it's gratifying for me to see it. I can only imagine what it feels like to her, to be 40, 45 fights into a career and finally getting the recognition that you should have gotten years ago. So I think that's, as much as I love seeing her fight, and I think any fight fan loves her style. Like, even if you're, not particularly a fan of women's boxing, you have to respect her style. It's a very action-oriented, aggressive style. But I'm just happy that she's getting these opportunities, and the sort of the larger boxing audience as a whole is recognizing her talent.
In terms of Showtime Sports, we saw the great spring and summer schedule. We know we have Adrian Broner, we got Danny Garcia, we got a lot of fighters coming up. Do you expect to see fights in the fall, in the winter? Do you expect to see this great schedule continue for Showtime Sports?
Yeah, I mean, look, if we look back at 2021, I think it was a very, very strong year. Probably with we had the undisputed fight the first time between Charlo and Castaño. We had undisputed with Canelo Plant, and we've continued this momentum, and we have no intentions of letting up. So, hopefully we can add a bookend of another undisputed fight in Spence Crawford. If you saw our show this past weekend, Spence was predicting that it would happen this year. We are making progress. I'm cautiously optimistic. And if we get, that fight, that's just sort of the cherry on top.
We saw Spence talking to Jim Gray. That's always good for us to see him saying that the negotiations are happening. And finally, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the overall sports landscape. Of course, we know it's shifting. We saw the F1 deal. How do you think everything's going to happen in terms of the move to streaming and things like that? How will that affect Showtime Sports, Showtime Boxing? What do you expect to see in the upcoming years?
Well, it's interesting. I think the F1 deal is really a testament to the fact that things do change. And you can make a move. It's sort of like we're not stuck in these tiers of here are the major sports, here are the mid-level, here are the niche sports. And they, sort of redoubled their efforts and came up with a very different approach and marketing plan, and it's paid off. So I think that's a lesson to all sports, including boxing, that we can't get too comfortable with where we are. We shouldn't accept that we're at a certain level, and we should always constantly be trying to think of, how can we expand the appeal of these events. I think Jake Paul fits into it. It's not the answer to all the boxing problems, but it's certainly one way to expand the audience.
Thank you so much for watching this video, and make sure to subscribe for more videos of your favorite fighters over here on Fight Hub TV, and give us a follow online as well at Fight Hub TV on Twitter and on Instagram. We appreciate it, guys.